Breaking news, one of the members of the incredibly popular rap group Migos was shot and killed in Houston. Representatives for the group have confirmed the rapper known as Takeoff has died following this morning's shooting in Houston. The rapper's real name was Kirshnik Khari Ball. He was 28 years old. His group, Migos, first formed in Atlanta in 2008, and by 2013, the trio hit it big with the single Versace. Drake actually was featured on the song, and it blew up. They've gone on to produce 20 platinum and gold singles and albums. Houston police say the shooting happened early this morning during a private party at a bowling alley. TMZ and Variety are reporting Takeoff was playing dice outside on the balcony when a fight broke out, ending in a shooting.
Rapper PNB Rock was reportedly shot to death at a restaurant in Los Angeles Monday afternoon. TMZ is reporting that he was the victim that the LAPD has yet to publicly name. Cops say a suspect walked into Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles in South Los Angeles, got into a verbal altercation with the victim at a table, and then shot him. They say the suspect then took some of the victim's possessions and fled to a car in the parking lot, taking off in an unknown direction. The victim was taken to the hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. Condolences have been pouring in on social media. Offset tweeted, "Pray for PNB Rock." Nicki Minaj tweeted, "He was such a pleasure to work with. Condolences to his mom and family. This makes me feel so sick." The governor of New Jersey even offered his sympathies, saying, "PNB Rock was a star in the industry, sending our condolences to his friends and family during this time." Police say they are still investigating and don't have a description of the suspect at this time. Some of PNB Rock's last social media posts were of him and his girlfriend. He is survived by 2 children. PNB Rock was 30 years old.
24-year-old rapper Jada died in Louisiana after being shot outside of his home. This according to police. A statement from local authorities posted to Facebook indicates that the artist was killed in his hometown of Bogalusa after a shooting on Wednesday evening. In a second message, officials shared an update identifying 2 victims, Jada and another individual who is described as a close family member. Bogalusa police said that the rapper died from his injuries, while the family member was transported to another facility and was said to be in stable condition. The department said an investigation is ongoing.
24-year-old rapper Jada Youngin, known for his hits Elimination and 23 Island, was shot along with his father, Kenyatta Scott Sr., the rapper, whose real name was Javorius Tyke Scott, was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Just hours before his untimely death, the rapper posted a video on Instagram showing a child believed to be his son. After Jada Youngin's death was officially announced on news outlets and social media blogs, both fans and rappers took to social media to post their remorse and hatred towards the rapper.
Shots ring out early Saturday morning at a Super Bowl weekend party near West Hollywood. LAPD says 4 men were shot outside of the swanky bar The Nice Guy on La Cienega at Westmount just before 3 this morning. Paramedics transported 2 victims to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say 2 other victims drove themselves to a nearby hospital. All are expected to be okay. The club was closed for a private event last night. TMZ reports the venue was the scene of a celebrity after-party following Justin Bieber's invite-only performance at the nearby Pacific Design Center. Police say rapper Kodak Black was among those wounded in the shooting.
All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining me today. We are going to have such an amazing conversation today. We're talking about the future of Afrobeat as well as the evolution of many other music genres that preceded it. And the question I am asking today, and I'm sure the question most of you are asking also is Afrobeats going to suffer the same fate as both hip hop and reggae? Now, the violence that we're seeing with hip hop has become that of epic proportion. It has become very, very concerning. The violence, the killings that we're seeing in the hip hop communities with rappers has become a major concern to not just the black community, but also communities at large. Every month, it seems now that there's a killing of one rapper or one hip hop artist. The most recent one was Takeoff, who just recently was killed in Houston about 2 weeks ago. And prior to that was PNB Rock, who was killed at Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffle while he was having meal with his girlfriend. Someone came, gunned him down, took all his stuff, and went off. Nipsey Hussle, a beloved person in his community, gunned down at the hands of another person. And what is common about all of these killings is that these all happen at the hands of other black men. It's black men killing black men. And that now is something that we're used to seeing now, is that hip hop has become this driver of violence, this tool of expressing anger and expressing such vitriol against one another, where black men are just gunning other black men. Black men are taking the lives of other black men. And that is a sad thing to see, because when you think of hip hop and the origin of hip hop and what that art and that music genre stood for when it first started, is so far from what we're seeing today. So far from it. Hip hop back in the founded of hip hop, when hip hop was founded in 1973, all the way through the 70s. And when you had the likes of Curtis Blow, Ron DMC, Grandmaster Flash, Eric B. and Rakim, and many others, even all the way into the 80s, where you had Ice Cube, Public Enemy, and many others like that, right? Hip hop was nothing but a voice of activism. They weren't promoting the violence that you're seeing today. They weren't promoting the denigration of their communities as you're seeing today. They weren't calling women the B words and exploiting women for sexual perversion. They weren't belittling their communities. As a matter of fact, they were voice ambassadors of their communities against the power that oppressed black communities. That's what hip hop stood for. That's what hip hop stood for a long time. Hip hop was an activism, a voice of the black community. And then we saw hip hop move from that to the 90s era, where hip hop stopped believing or stopped thinking about its communities and started thinking about itself. Hip hop went from a community-based music genre to a self-based music genre. People started looking for the money. People now started going for the bag, as you hear people say. People started thinking about themselves. The likes of Puff Daddy, Diddy started to emerge. Jay-Z started to emerge. 50 Cent, Eminem, Dr. Dre. All of these people start to emerge. And we started to see hip hop move from the era where it was all about speaking about what was going on in the community, speaking truth to power, to where everyone was just looking out for themselves and were promoting violence, promoting gangster living, promiscuity, all of that in the community. Now we're seeing young men, Gen Zs, getting gunned down, killing each other's, in the streets for no reason. Black men in hip hop now don't think anything of it when they take another black man's life. As a matter of fact, when one of the hip hop artists got killed recently, I can't remember his name, People were on social media talking about how he deserved it, how he had it coming to him. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine where we have gone and we've come to as a community? So that's hip hop. Now, we also have seen the same thing with reggae. When reggae also was founded back in the 1950s, 1960s, and reggae was founded primarily, was a brainchild of one man, Bob Marley, who used his platform, and he was sold to activism. Bob Marley went all over the world talking about the plight of black people. He wasn't just talking about the plight of Jamaicans. He was speaking about the plight of black people all over the world. Redemption song. Many, many songs like that. He was speaking about what was going on here in the United States against African Americans. He was talking about what was going on in South Africa, the apartheid going on in South Africa against the Africans in that country. He was talking about what was going on also in Jamaica and plenty other places. And others took the baton from him and also continued that voice. And just like hip hop, we saw reggae also evolve into something that became toxic, promotion of promiscuity, promotion of violence, and really sort of mirrored hip hop to the point today that even I, with 7-year-olds and 4-year-olds, I cannot play hip hop or reggae in my household with my kids present. I can't. I can play other music genres. I can play pop music with my kids present because those music and those songs don't have the B words, the N words, don't have gunshots in those songs. I can play those in the car, in our home, without having to worry about the fact that my kids are around. I can't do that with hip hop or reggae. I can do that with afrobeats. My kids love afrobeats. I can play afrobeat and just walk out the room and don't worry about it because afrobeat is clean, it's pure, it doesn't have none of these promotion of violence or N words or B words or you speaking down to either women or communities. It doesn't have none of that. I can feel confident that my 7-year-olds can sing Afrobeat without me having to really censor what they're saying because Afrobeat doesn't have none of that. I can't do that for reggae or hip hop. Many of you watching me today can't do that with your little kids in the house. You can't even play these songs and music with your grandparents in the house. You can't even do it. Most people can't even play hip hop without having to really play the clean version of hip hop or having to make sure that young ones are not in the room when they're playing this. How did we get here? How did hip hop, a music genre that was so beautiful, that really touched the world, that really gave the world so much, that really drew attention to something that needed to be attended to, that really was a voice of activism. How did it get here? How did reggae also get here? I'll tell you how it got here. I'll tell you how. Because hip hop and reggae stopped being about community and started becoming all about self. That's how we got here. The music genres forgot that the community that represented them and the communities they represented, that made them who they are, they were responsible for those communities. They were responsible for their people to ensure that they did not bring anything that was toxic. They didn't promote anything that was harmful for the money. They forgot that they had a responsibility to their communities. And they started thinking about self, how much money they were going to make, the bag. Didn't matter. Whatever the record label wanted them to do, they were up for it. Whatever the record label says, hey, this is what I think we should produce. Don't produce that. It's not going to sell. they were up for it. So now the question now becomes, is it the record label's fault? Or is it the consumer's fault? Because I've often heard the argument that the record labels are to be blamed for this. That the record labels force this artist to producing the type of trash that we see today. I've heard this, so let's talk about it, because I think it's important that we deal with these things the way it needs to be dealt with. I believe it's both. I believe it is the record label's fault, and that's also the consumer's fault. Because from a supply chain model perspective, suppliers only supply products that are demanded for. That's the way it works in any community, in any culture, in any global or industrialized world. People only supply what people are demanding. So in that sense, I blame the record labels. But again, we can't absolve the consumers, because consumers are demanding these types of nonsense. They're demanding these types of toxicity because apparently they're buying it. They're going to concert. They're playing this. They're also demanding this to be played in many events. So, of course, the record labels are going to fill those needs. So I blame both. Now, there's an argument to be made that a supplier can create a need, right, that people may not know they need it and cause people to really go and demand that. There's an argument to be made, and that is true. That is true. And we are seeing those type of strategic marketing campaigns played where you create a need for something that people weren't even asking for. And then all of a sudden they said, oh, you know what? That was the only option I had. I went for it. But we as a people at the end of the day still have a choice in the matter. You don't have to buy into something that promotes filth in your community. You don't have to buy it. I mean, take a look at, for example, the other music genres. These music genres have been around as long as hip hop has been around. Country music, these have been around as long as they have been around. But how is it that we're not seeing this type of filth, promotion of violence and all of that in these other music genres as we're seeing with hip hop? We're not seeing that. You know why? Because their communities refuse to endorse those types of things. They refuse to endorse them. They don't care if artists decide that, oh, that's the wave of the future. They don't care. They are not buying that. They refuse to bring that into the communities. And so because of that, those record labels know that when it comes to these communities, these types of music or the type of music that promote violence is not something that's going to work for these communities. So they don't produce those because those communities don't accept those. Now, why can't we do that? Right? Why do we resort to taking the money at the demise of our brothers, your sons, your daughters? You know, nowadays it seems like every time you see a twerking or a sexual perversion exploitation, it's more likely going to be a black person at the end of that medium that is doing that. That's what I've come to know now. I mean, I'm not just making this stuff up. When I see images that has to do with sexual perversion and sexual exploitation, more likely than none, it's a black person at the end of that thing. And these people have brothers, these people have sisters, these people have cousins, these people have children that are more likely or most likely going to see that. They don't care. It's all about you getting the bag. So this is a sounding caution for afrobeats, because afrobeats right now is beautiful. It's promoting communities, it's promoting love, it's promoting all of that. Now the question now is Afrobeat also going to suffer the same fate? Is Afrobeat going to also stop being about communities and being about self? So that's yet to be known, because I will tell you, these record labels, these ones that control a lot of these music genres, These ones that somehow control, all of these that we're seeing. The Grammys, the MTV Award, the AMA, all of these other music awards, the ones that Afrobeat artists want to break right into it. Are they going to take the money? Are they going to take the money? Because I will tell you right now that we in the Nigerian community, we're not for that. We're not for that. As a matter of fact, I will tell you that if I come across an Afrobeat artist who is promoting violence, using the N-word, which I consider to be a shame, or promoting some kind of promiscuity or some type of filth in the community, that'll be when you and I will have to path ways. I will have to path ways with that Afrobeat artist and never promote that Afrobeat artist on my platform. As a matter of fact, I will make it my point to thumbs down anything they put out, because you're promoting and you're putting out filth into the community that's elevated you, the community that has really given you the platform that you have. You wouldn't have it if it weren't for your communities. And now you in turn want to send filth into here. I would make sure that my platform will be used to call that out. I know, like in the past, Burna Boy has used the N-word in the past, and I've been vocal about it. And if Burna Boy ever uses the N-word in his next song or next album, he and I will have to path ways. I can't stand for that. And that goes for him or anybody else in the Afrobeat community. Because you're not going to promote filth in our community and think that you are already successful without that. You get what I'm saying? Hip-hop was successful without all of that extra stuff. Without all of that. Hip-hop was huge. So what will cause you to now go that route? What would cause you to now begin to distribute filth into your community? What? If it weren't for a wicked and an evil intention, if it weren't for you wanting to appease wherever the record label execs are, whoever they are, you can say no. You can say no and be done with it. You don't have to sign that contract. You don't have to have your next album include all that filth, because we don't want it. We don't want it. And the moment you start putting that out there, I know for me, I can't speak for many others, I'm going to call you out on it, and I'm going to ensure that anything you put out, right, has a bad review. I would make it my life work to ensure that you get a bad review in anything you put out, because you're not going to bring toxicity in our community, because there are people that are coming up after us that we need to watch for. There are people that are younger than us that we need to look out for. There are people that we need to represent. You have a responsibility. I have a responsibility. And so the communities that we all come from is bigger than who we are. I don't care how big you think you are. You're not bigger than your community. I don't care how successful you think you are. You're not more successful than your community. The communities that have made you who you are larger than you 100 times over. So you're going to be responsible for your communities, and you're not going to put out filth. You're not going to put out garbage and think somehow we're just going to stay quiet. I don't care who you are. I am going to make sure that I make it my life duty to ensure that you get a negative coverage. Anything that has to do with you has a negative coverage. If you put out filth in our community, if you promote gangsterism, if you start putting out guns in your music, start using the N-word in your music, start exploiting the women in your music, start using the words like B words and N-words and all of that, I am going to ensure that I use my platform to drag you down. And it'll be my life's work. It'll be an honor for me to do it. Because I am looking out for my 7-year-old, my 4-year-old, who obviously will not be listening to that. But then if they go to school, they hear your song. If they go with their friends in their places where I'm not around and they hear your song, I got to be able to control that the best way I can. And so I'm going to use my platform to speak against you. But I hope that we never get there. I hope that Afrobeat never gets to that point. I hope that the Afrobeat artists will be as dignified as they are today and make their money the way they're making their money. Sing about what you're singing right now. There's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to evolve from that to something else that is toxic and harmful to your community. Other communities have not moved from that. The white communities have stayed in what they're singing. They sing about love and promotion of families and relationship. They haven't moved from that. That's the same thing they've been doing 40 years ago, and they're still doing it today. You go to like the other communities, you'll find the same thing. They haven't moved. You don't have to evolve into something that is this toxic. So I'm hoping that Afrobeat isn't, and I'm hoping that Afrobeat stays as pure and as beautiful as it is, because I think that it's about time a black music genre represented the black race in the most dignified and excellent ways as possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching it. Please give it a thumbs up, share this video, subscribe to this channel, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.